Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing well. Hope you had a good couple weeks wherever you were. I enjoyed working with those of you who were down in Costa Rica. We got back late Saturday night. Sunday felt like a recovery day, and today, Monday, still feels like a recovery day. So, when you're listening to this, even though this is a week 5 screencast, I'm recording it now in preparation for when I leave later this week. I've got to go to Uganda next. Our PT program has done an international service trip there for the past 10 years. My plan was only to do Costa Rica this year. However, the individual who normally leads it was unable to go, and the backup person that was going to lead it, I use the word unfortunately, but I guess it's not unfortunately. She is starting a family, and so she would be delivering while we're there. And for those of you that have a family with little ones, you know that your doctor usually tells you not to fly anywhere the first or the last month or two. And to be in Uganda probably would not be the best place to be if she were to have any complications. So week 5 and week number 6 will be online, and we're looking at scientific writing tips. And just know that I will be potentially available to respond to email. It may not be quick, but I will not be able to access anything through Canvas. And so if you don't get your week 4 assignment turned in until or by Friday of this week, it probably won't get graded until I get back. So here are 4 things to consider when writing. Writing is hard work. So there's an old adage that good reading is hard writing, and writing takes practice. I know that I submitted a paper not too long ago, got reviews back, thought I had written really well, and there were some questions. And so looking back, there are areas that I could have done better. And I think that goes for just about everybody out there, that writing is very difficult. And that's going to be something that is going to be an important role of your committee, as well as myself if I'm not on your committee. I'll be reviewing all papers and serving as that quote unquote reviewer who may not know your topic, who may not be an expert in your area, but who is able to give input and provide suggestions, provide comments. So if there's something that I'm not understanding, it's very possible that others might not understand it too. So that was kind of a long way of saying that writing takes practice. Your committee is going to be very important for helping to make those edits, to identify those areas that would benefit from revision. And so moving on to revision, you must be prepared to write, rewrite, and then rewrite again. And so things will go through multiple drafts, meaning you may write something out, you think you got your paper looking good, and then as you go back over it, you see a particular section that is incomplete, that there are things missing that would further develop the discussion section, or you find things missing that if you were trying to replicate the study, your methods maybe fall a little bit short. And then, of course, there's just the common errors, the English grammar, the spelling, the punctuation, things like that. Number 3, writing is an idiosyncratic process. So be open to constructive criticism to improve your style. And so there's going to be times where you send me something and it comes back with lots of edits in a particular area. And I do that because I'm trying to move the manuscript in a certain direction. For example, sometimes it's very easy for us to write like we speak, so conversational. However, conversational forms of writing is not what we want within a paper like this. Things need to take on a scientific writing approach. And then finally, writing takes time. And we'll see some more of that here in just a little bit. So looking at that writing takes time, set aside a block of uninterrupted time to write. Find 2 to 3 hours to block out. Maybe that's in the evening after clinicals, maybe that's on a Friday night, maybe that's Saturday. Don't sit down and go, okay, I'm going to do all day Saturday writing. Give yourself a time period. Maybe you're going to go from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then it's time to go walk the dog after that. So have a purpose. That way you're mentally focused hard for those 2 hours, and you've got something to look forward to. Maybe you're writing again from 1 to 3 p.m., and at 3 p.m., regardless of where you're at, it's time to go exercise. Also, find a spot where you won't get interrupted. If you have family, if you have roommates, that can be challenging. Maybe you need to go to campus if you're in the Newburgh area. Maybe you need to go to a local library. Or just tell people, hey, don't bother me for the next 2 hours. Next, prepare an outline of the major sections of the proposal. Other word there could be of the paper. The sections should be based on the specific format. And I say there, see prior examples. Basically, every paper is going to have an introduction, a methodology, a result section, discussion, and conclusion. As we look forward to the rest of the term, if you have a potential interest of submitting your work for consideration in a journal, I'm going to have you identify journals that could potentially be of interest. For example, if you're doing an orthopedic related topic, are you doing something that is focused on orthopedic surgery? So what would be the appropriate journals for that? If you're looking at something related to exercise, again, what would be the appropriate journals that would have an interest in potentially publishing that topic? Then, if you identify those journals, what kind of format do they want things in? Some publishers will ask for you to number your headings. So you might have a 1.1, a 1.2. Others may have major headings and subheadings. What I'm trying to express to you is create an outline based on your primary journal of interest that you'd like to submit to, and then you'll be able to visualize what those headings are. That'll help inform what information you're going to be putting in each of those sections. And of course, in all the prior examples that we've included in ARP1 and so far in ARP2, those give you a general idea as to the format that's required for a scoping review or a systematic review. And then another tip in your first draft, don't worry about grammar or punctuation. Meaning, if you don't feel like you're strong with grammar and punctuation, that you would recognize if you did something incorrectly right then and there, just save it. Just keep on working on. You can always put it through some software later to help identify errors, or utilize the Word document features that identify potential errors, but fine-tune things later. Common problems with writing. A major problem is imprecise language, failing to take a scientific or technical writing approach, and you also want to avoid non-essential or extraneous words. Here's some rules for clear writing. We're going to look at these in the next few slides. So first off, stay away from jargon. Jargon can have varied meanings. Make sure to clearly define phrases that could be misinterpreted. So, for example, calibrating raters. Is this looking at the reliability of an individual, or is this referring to machine calibrating? Avoid words that are trendy. For example, cutting edge or state of the art. It may be that utilizing virtual reality for individuals with Parkinson's disease is cutting edge. Or you may be exploring a new surgery that is cutting edge. But these terms are vague and require explanation. Rather, it would be good to just do something like this. If you are looking at a new surgery and it's considered cutting edge surgery, maybe you would say something to the effect of the standard approach for treating patients with diagnosis X is surgery A, period. However, a new procedure described by Smith et al. Utilizes blah, blah, blah for this procedure. So you're doing something that identifies that it's newer without putting in those kind of vague descriptive terms or phrases. Do not cut corners with abbreviations like etc. or so forth. And you'll see this sometimes where people will write and they might say in parentheses, they list one or two things and then put etc. behind it. If something's important enough to write, then write it. The way around that is if you don't want to list everything, put in parentheses E.G. which is the abbreviation for example, and then you could list one or two things. For example does not mean that it's an exhaustive list. But etc. is something you don't want to use. So forth is something you don't want to use. It's considered a lazier way of writing. It reflects an inadequate development of thought. Avoid overly broad phrases and avoid non-specific phrases. Try not to sound quote unquote intellectual by using big words or long phrases. For example, due to the fact that, or in view of the fact that, or at a rapid rate. Instead, use one word or a couple words. So instead of an excessive amount of, put too much. Or at a rapid rate, just put rapidly. Avoid redundant phrases like period of time, green in color, basic, fundamental, essential. Keep overused phrases to a minimum. For example, a thorough search of the literature. People will write that when they are trying to describe their search process. Instead, it would be very simple to state, and you'll see this in the different scoping review and systematic review articles that I've uploaded. You'll see them say things like, a literature search was conducted utilizing Medline, CINAHL, Google Scholar, and whatever else through the month of April 2025. That then, by definition, highlights your thoroughness of your search process. Other examples in the final analysis, a large body of information. These are often an indication of inadequate development of one's thought. Watch for unclear reference. Things like they and their. Who is this referring to? It's very easy for us to start off a paragraph talking about Smith et al. And their particular study, and then 3 or 4 sentences later, you put they. Well, is they referring to Smith et al., or is it referring to subjects in one or both groups? Here's another example. The homeless are among the most disenfranchised and underserved who could greatly benefit from the services of health and human service professionals. They would contribute significantly to their health and well-being. Who is they? They is probably the health and human service professionals, but when you have multiple identify groups in there, it becomes challenging. Let's talk about writer's block. Causes of it include anxiety, a lack of confidence, fatigue, procrastination, and a lack of time. Probably things like fatigue, lack of time, and procrastination are the things that you'll be facing. Maybe you'll face the other ones too. That's why, again, it's important to block yourself time. Other ways to beat writer's block include identifying a quiet, comfortable area. As I work on this recording right now, I'm at my home. In my office, the doors are closed, and I have told people that I'm doing a recording. Sometimes I like to have background music on when I'm writing. For myself, can't be rock, it can't be things with lyrics, so usually I'm doing something that's classical music or something that is jazz related. Something that just kind of helps that distractible brain, like, oh, I want to search something up online that's unrelated. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. Just kind of helps keep my mind focused. Again, schedule time and break down sections into specific tasks. Don't feel like you're going to be, oh, I'm going to write 3/4 of the paper in these 2 hours. Make a goal of, hey, I'm going to work on the methods section. And then your dissertation team, as you've looked at assignment number 4, what are the roles going to be? One person should be your chair. That's your point person. That's the person that you probably is the person that maybe has content expertise, or maybe it's somebody that you work really well with. The rest of the team, they're going to be providing editing and revising. All right, so this week, we just have this screencast. The rest of your time can be devoted to working on your paper.